What's it like to be coached by you? That's a question that was put forward in a recent podcast, The Talent Equation. If you haven't listened to The Talent Equation, what are you doing? Go and check it out on Spotify and all major platforms. And it was a great question that really got me to reflect over the weekend. Well, what is it like to be coached by me? And I'm going to answer this in two parts. The first video, this video, I'm going to answer it from my perspective, what I believe it's like to be coached by me. And then next week, we're going to maybe look at it from a player's perspective. I'm going to speak to my players this week and ask them the question, what is it like to be coached by me? Now, with the player's view, it's going to be a little bit of bias in there as well because they're going to tell me pretty much what I want to hear. So let's see if these two things match up. So I think there's two elements to this. I think, what was it like before 2020? 2020 was a big turning point in my life. I started to move away from what we class as a traditional way of coaching into a more ecological way. Now, in 2020, players will probably use words like fear. I think players were scared of my lessons. I was quite shouty. I was quite intense. I demanded high intensity, high workload, high effort, and I only wanted the best. And I used to say it a lot with players, when you walk through that curtain or you walk through that door, you're here to work hard. And I had a reputation of working players extremely hard. Again, quite loud, quite intense. And I think that put a lot of fear on my players. And I look back now and it's quite hard to reflect backwards because I think I probably come across quite aggressive. Definitely came across angry and upset. And I'm not making excuses, but I was pretty much coaching how a lot of coaches around me were working, especially within the performance landscape. Again, from the background I had from other sports, but also tennis and national performance coaches that I was around, really intense. And it wasn't that uncommon to see players in tears when you worked in a performance environment. There seemed to be this mindset of working really, really hard. And if you listen to some podcasts out there on platforms and you speak to a lot of traditional coaches, they'll talk about these things, about working hard, discipline, not letting the players off. And you see it quite a lot with social media posts as well. And I think that was quite a fearful environment. I think players respected me, and I like to think I respected the players, but I'm not too sure if I give them the respect they deserve because I was so shouty. And a lot of parents would want to bring their kids to me because I had a reputation of getting results, of hard work and discipline, and doing what was needed sometimes in their eyes and my eyes. And I think fear would have been a word players used quite a lot. Another word players would use would be boredom. I think a lot of the time it was high repetition, high volume, doing the same thing over and over again. Again, with that traditional mindset of repetition, Fitz and Posner, 10,000 repetitions. We've got to get the reps in. We've got to do it over and over again. The more you do it, the less likely it is to break down under pressure, muscle memory, all the stuff that we've hopefully talked about in this podcast that might not be true or very effective. So I think my lessons are pretty boring. It was pretty much the same thing every single week. And the final word, and maybe players wouldn't use this, but I would definitely feel that I felt this. It was all about me. And I used to say it quite a lot. I'm the star of the show. People are coming here to see me. They're paying me. Therefore, I would put on a show. I would dictate everything. I'd make all the decisions. I'd be the authority on the court. It was my space. And I said this quite a lot. This is my space. When you come into my space, you work my way. And it was all about me. And my ego, at times, was off the chart. Like, I would be very self-centered. I'd make decisions that suited me, maybe not suited my player. I thought I knew everything because I was successful. I definitely had some confirmation bias. And yeah, it was definitely ego-driven. And looking back, it's interesting because I was successful. It was working. I was getting players to good levels. I had quite successful programs. I had even coaches working under me. I reckon they would say the same words. Slight fear of me. Because if they made mistakes or slipped up, I'd be on top of them. It was definitely my way or the highway in terms of I ran the program. And then this is coaches talking about that as well. So you did it my way. So what about now in 2024? What words would players use to describe my lessons? I think fun would be one of the first ones. And a lot of players do feedback to me going, I like your lessons because they're fun. And it's not because I just play silly games. And yes, we do play constraint-led games. And to the kids, they sometimes do feel a bit silly because they're not your traditional games. But they're fun because of the environment are set. Kids like to be involved, and we'll look at some words in a minute like autonomy, decision making, problem solving. Kids find that fun. My lessons are competitive. Kids enjoy competition. My lessons are about exploring. Kids love exploring. So I think that's why they think my lessons are fun these days. Gone are the days of me shouting and being autocratic and it's all about me. It's much more player centered. And that's the second word I think I'd use now is my role is much more of a supporting role. I'm no longer the leading actor. I'm the supporting actor. The player themselves or the players in the group setting, they're the lead. They're the stars. They take over the majority of the performance. I'm just there to support, to help, to guide, to facilitate. And that's a huge shift in how things work, and that will link into the fun bit. Gone are the days where I make loads of decisions. The player makes a big bulk of decisions. Gone are the days where I'm shouting at players how to improve because the player's in charge of that. My job is to guide them to improve. And I think being more player centered, that gives a player a sense of ownership and accountability and gives them a voice. And I think goes back to the word respect, which I mentioned before. I think players, I would like to think, and I find out this week, I'd like to think players feel more respected in my sessions. Why? Because I ask their opinion. I asked them what they'd like to work on. I'd ask them how they can find the solution. I'll speak to them to see if they can find the solution. I'll guide them, but not explicitly tell them in terms of what they could look at. I think that gives a player a sense of respect. And that's huge because to me, those things we're talking about, fun, player-led, player-centered, respected, that's the biggest shift in my coaching. And I've not only seen a difference in players, I'm going to talk about the difference in me. In 2020, I was burnt out. I hated tennis coaching. It was stressful. It was hard work. I didn't enjoy going into work. I didn't enjoy being the intense, shouty coach. I hated it. But I was working that way because, one, I got results. Two, everyone was working that way. And three, that's all I knew. Now, I love my job. I'm going into work this evening and I can't wait to get in there, to work with the kids, to have fun, to be engaged, to see what journey that we're going to go on this evening. So from a selfish point of view, I'm in a much better place because I've changed the way I coach. And I truly believe my players will feel the same way. But we'll find out in the video next week. So maybe ask yourself that question. What is it like to be coached by you? What would the players say about you? And let me know in the comments. As always, check out the video on the screen now. Please check out my brand new online course, From Drills to Skills, bridging the gap between the practice court and the match court. I'll leave a link down in the description below. And until tomorrow, I'll speak to you soon.